Hello everyone, welcome to this new video in which we are going to be talking about vector search. Now vector search is a very modern and hot topic these days because of so many exciting applications that it enables us to perform. For example, RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. One of the backbone of RAG is getting the retrieval, so getting the documents, relevant documents from our knowledge base, and that is powered by vector search. So on this slide you see so what I have done is I've taken this problem of vector search and I have divided it into sub problems. In general, I'm talking about 6 problems here. What is vector search? Obtaining the vectors, defining the distance metric, performing vector search, managed vector search solutions, and this can be also called as vector databases. So don't worry about these terms too much, just try to get the underlying fundamental concepts. Vector search and vector search databases, these two terms are used interchangeably. Okay, so vector databases in particular are optimized for doing vector search. Okay, and then we have this last section, building your own vector search solution. Maybe if you don't want to use managed, you can do it on your own premise. Okay, so let's get started. So the first topic is, and I know most of you guys would be quite familiar and comfortable with the first one, and that is what is vector search. So let's open this up and let's look at what is vector search. Now let's talk about the background. What is the background of vector search? Now, given a query document, and here when I say document, I'm talking about a text document. So I'm not talking about any vectors in the background. Okay, I'm just talking about a query document, and that query document could be a text in a natural language. So maybe something like find me a book on getting rich. Okay, so this could be my query document, this small piece of text. Now given this query document and n, now notice here this n and n documents. So I have this query document and n document, and what I want to do, we want to retrieve k documents, and obviously this k would be way less than n. So I want to find a subset of those n documents, and in particular I want to find k documents from the n documents which are most similar to the query document. So essentially I want to find out, based on the n documents, based on the query document, that document which is most similar, and I'm talking about the similarity in terms of semantic similarity. And this semantic term is also very popular in vector search, because we want to find semantically similar, because before semantic similarity was not possible, and nowadays this semantic similarity is possible thanks to embeddings, deep learning embeddings, or neural embeddings you can call them. So before these were possible, we used to do search solutions using keyword search. Very simple keyword search based solutions were there. Now I will take this background and I will convert this problem into a mathematical problem. Okay, so now if I look at this problem, so what do we have right now? What do we have as a given? So we have a set of vectors. Now how many vectors we are talking about? We are talking about n vectors. So we have total n number of vectors, and that is e1, e2, en. So you can think of converting these n documents into n vector representations. Now how do we convert them? We will come back to that discussion in a moment, but assume that we have these n vectors and a query vector. So suppose we also converted this query document into a query vector, and that is q. All of these are from d-dimensional space, and when we talk about vector, we also talk about dimensions. So I am assuming that all of these vectors are coming from the same dimensional space, and that's how we will be able to do similarity calculations, because if all of the vectors are coming from different dimensions, then it would not make sense and it would not be even possible to compute similarity metrics. Now what is a goal? The goal is to find k vectors from the set ei. Now ei, again I is used mathematically. Here I can range from 1 to n, which are closest to q. And in the third box, I'm defining what do we mean by closest. Now, closest, as the name implies, is defined by, so this vector is basically, so since these vectors will be in high dimensional space, high dimension means D would be really large. And it would not be possible for us to look at on a 2D graph, but to see it, what we mean by closeness, let me maybe 2D cluster. Let me get a diagram of 2D clustering. You see this? Now suppose I have a query vector, and suppose I'm dealing with a vector of D is equal to 2, so that I can plot them here. Now if I have a vector somewhere here, somewhere maybe here, it is most closest to these set of vectors, right? So that is how we are talking about closeness. Now this closeness can be defined by either Euclidean distance or dot product distance. I won't go deep into this, but this is just to give you this mathematical sense of how this raw problem that organization face to retrieve similar documents into a mathematical problem. And what I have just done is I have just represented it mathematically in terms of notations. Okay, now this was about vector search. Now let's talk about how do we obtain these vectors, okay, these n vectors. To obtain these n vectors, the idea is that take your documents, take your input documents and get embeddings, get the embeddings for those documents. See, this in itself is a very deep topic. So because we can't embed entire documents. So if we are dealing with a book, maybe book is a huge piece of document in itself. So what we need to do is we need to employ strategies such as chunking and all. But I'm just talking about at a very high level this about this embedding and all. So what we need to do is we need to obtain these embeddings, and for now I'm assuming that I'm not performing any chunking. So I'm taking my n documents and I'm converting those into n embeddings. Okay, now what are my options? Okay, I have two sets of options. Either use a managed API solution, and we have within it two different vendors which provide the embedding APIs, OpenAI and Gemini, and I'm sure there are thousands of other managed solutions as well, but these two are something that I know of. And then we have open source solution. Okay, in open source, you have a variety of different open source solutions, open source models, but those can be accessed by something known as Hugging Face library called Sentence Transformer. Okay, now via Sentence Transformer you can access those open source models, and there is one more package. Let me add that here as well, and I can provide you this deck so that you can refer it later. There is this package called Fast Embed, and many of the models which are provided by Fast Embed can be found in Sentence Transformer as well. And there is Ollama as well. So Ollama offers you a way to obtain embeddings using open source embedding models. Now when to choose what? Okay, now this question can be answered using this third box, which is it is all about trade-off between time, money and ease of use. Okay, managed solution would obviously be very easy. You take a document, you pass that document into OpenAI's API call, and you get a response back in form of the array of embedding. This is as easy as it can get. Okay, now obviously those are easy, but then if we talk about time, these APIs, because they are basically practicing this fair use policy, and they don't want one person to basically bombard the API with all the requests. So what they do is they limit the usage. Okay, so to use these APIs, you have to be very intelligent and you have to be very well versed with these API techniques like rate limiting and maybe exponential retry mechanism, exponential backup. So there is this strategy the thing that I'm trying to say is to use this API, although they are very easy to use, but they have some limitations. Now should you care about those limitations? That's the question. Because let's say maybe let's hypothetically say you have got only 100k documents to embed, and I feel majority of companies are having the use case similar to this one. Very few companies go beyond maybe 1 million or even 10 million or even in billion documents. Okay, so your use case might have a very high chance of falling into this category. Now if this is the case, then I would recommend going for this only. Okay, let me just put it here only. Okay, so why do I say this? Because OpenAI provides something known as batch API. Now using batch API, you can submit batch request of 50,000, getting 50,000 embeddings all at once. So to embed 100k documents, you just have to send 2 batch API calls and you would get this done. Now to do the same on using open source model, again this is easy using open source model as well, but again it also boils down to how accurate your embeddings should be, because obviously since these are large corporations, these are trained by large corporations, they would be more accurate. But that's not entirely true, because I have personally tested these open source model and they are as good as these paid models, not less than that. Okay, so you can use these as well. But let's say your use case involves maybe 1 billion documents, then I feel you cannot go with these. First of all, they will cost you money, although money should not be a concern. Let's calculate how much money it will take. So OpenAI's small embedding model costs $0.01 per 1 million token. Now 1 million token means how many tokens of text you send. And suppose you have got 1 million documents, and each 1 million documents, suppose on average they take 10 tokens. So you are talking about how many? 10 million tokens, right? And again 10 tokens per document is a very less estimate. Let's maybe increase it to 200. So if I increase it to 200, now 200 million if 1 million is costing 0.01, then 200 should cost 200 times 0.01, which is about $2. Am I doing something wrong here? I think am I right? Let me check the pricing of OpenAI embedding pricing. So if we go to embedding, let me search embedding. Okay, so yeah, so I was right. So the cost of each API call is this, but batch API, remember I told you about batch API. So if you use a batch API, those cost even little than even less than these. Okay, so 0.01, which means, and this is 0.01 price per 1 million token, right? So that means if you have 200 million tokens to basically embed, for that your cost would be $2. And even I guess 200 estimate token estimate is not quite reasonable, but you get the idea, right? So the cost is not that huge. The only challenge in maybe getting this many embedding would be sending too many batch API requests, because in one batch API you can only embed 50k documents. Okay, and if let's say it increased to maybe 100 million, in that case you see the problem, right? To get 100 million embedding from OpenAI, so it would cost 100 times each, 100 times, which would be $200. That might not be an issue for you because you are dealing with 100 millions, which means you are a large organization, right? But time would be an issue for you in this case. So that in those scenarios, what you could do is you can rent out a EC2 server and you can deploy one model, open source model locally, or maybe on EC2 instance. That would be much faster in this case. Okay, so I hope you get the idea, and I hope you understand this trade-off between time, money, and ease of use. Let me get rid of these notes. Okay, then third problem in the vector search problem in thinking about vector search is choosing a distance or similarity metric. You don't have to worry much about this, because nowadays the way embeddings are generated, only dot product is something which is preferred and which is used even in managed solutions. So you don't need to worry about these that much. Just go with dot product. Okay, so now let's come to the most exciting part, and that is performing the vector search. Now when we talk about vector search, what exactly is a vector search? We already studied that, and that was, given a query vector, we need to find out of these n vectors k top vectors which are most closest to the query vector. That is the vector search problem. But to answer, to basically perform this vector search, we need to answer these two questions. Okay, can my entire vector data, and when I say vector data, I'm talking about embeddings, fit in my RAM? So let's do some calculations here. Okay, suppose I have got maybe not 1 million, because as again it is up to the organization. Suppose your organization is only having 100k vectors or maybe 100k documents. Okay, so in that case, what would be the size in terms of RAM storage to do the calculation? So if I assume that you are going for OpenAI's API, OpenAI returns a vector of size 1536. So 1536 is the dimension of the vector. Okay, it means you will have 100k vectors of the dimension 1536. Now what would be the size of this entire in terms of storage and in terms of getting this into the RAM? So if I compute the size of one vector, so one vector size, the size would be 1536 multiplied by size of each element within the vector. Now what is the size of each element? And that differs from model to model, but OpenAI stores each element in float 32 precision. And when I say float 32 precision, what it means is 32 bits precision, and 32 bits would mean 1536 multiplied by 4 byte. And if I do this calculation, this would turn out to be 6.1 kilobyte. Now I have got 100k vectors, each taking a space of 6.1 kb, which would mean I am talking about 610,000 kb, which is about if I have to do this rough calculation, if I need to convert it into MB, it would be about 6110 megabyte, which is quite reasonable and quite you can say very easily it can be fit into any modern laptop or modern system. So now this was my first question, and the second question is, if I can fit this entire vector data in my RAM, next question is, how fast can I compute the similarity? So how can I answer this question about fast? Now what do we mean by this doing this calculation fast? See, I have got this see, first of all, this storage was dependent upon RAM, right? And this fast is dependent upon the CPU, right? And in general, in machine learning and deep learning terminology, there is this thing called flops, and flops would mean floating point operation. Floating point operation per second. So I need to compute. So okay, what will happen in a production setting? I will have a vector or maybe a query vector of size 1536 dimension, right? Now I need to compare this query vector with all the 100k vectors. Okay, so the approach that I am the approach that I have just described is known as a nearest neighbor approach. So the thing that I'm just describing is, it is known as an exhaustive search. So what I'm doing is I am searching for all the vectors. I'm basically computing similarity over all the vectors, and I'm choosing that which has the least maybe distance or most similarity, because there are two metrics, right? Distance and similarity. With distance, we take those vectors which have least distance. With similarity, we do the opposite. So here, how many to do this calculation of search of doing this 100k times? How much time will it take? That's the question that we want to answer here. So can we compute this, that how much time it will take? We can roughly compute it. We cannot exactly compute it, but we can be pretty sure and pretty accurate in that. So suppose I'm talking about let me show you something. Let me get dot product formula. Okay, so what is dot product? So dot product, vector dot product. Okay, so what we do is, in vector dot product, what we do is, so this top formula is what you need to consider. We multiply each element by the corresponding element in the second vector, and we then take all those individual multiplication and we sum those. Okay, so here we are talking about a vector of size 1536. So let's say I take one vector from this 100k and I compute this dot product. So dot between maybe ei, or maybe I can do e2 and q. Okay, dot between these two vectors would mean that I need to do 1536 multiplications. 1536 multiplication, what multiplications? Floating point operations. So floating multiplications, floating number multiplications, and then I need to add those numbers. And in computer, the way we add, so for example, if I have to add 15 plus 13 plus 15, how many times do I need to add? You can, so if you need to understand how this happens internally in computer memory, the way computer does this is, it takes two numbers at a time, it gets the result, so 25, and then it replaces that, and then it does the rest. So it means to do addition on three numbers, we have to do this addition how many times? 1, and we got this, and then 2, so 2 times. Similarly, if I have d entries in a list, I need to do d minus 1 operations to do the addition. So here, if I have, so first I have to do a element wise multiplication, and then I have to do 35 additions. And what additions I'm talking about? Again, I'm talking about floating number additions. So how many floating point operations I'm talking about? About 2 times this, right? So 2 times d, and d in this case is, let's take it approximately 1500. So I'm talking about 3000 floating point operations, which in short is known as flops. So in getting this dot product one time, I'm talking about 3000 floating point operation. Now if I have to do it for 100k times, I will be doing 100k times 300 floating point operations. Now if I do this calculation, so 100k multiplied by 3000, it would be close to 300 M flops. Now what is M flops? Now these are all the notations that I'm introducing. So 1 M flop would be basically 1 mega flops, and it contains basically 1 million floating point operations. Now the question is, how do I know how fast this can be done? Modern computers can do 100 G flops per second, and G means giga. Now this is very in line with the way we understand gigabyte and megabyte and kilobyte. Okay, so one flop, let me tell you how. One flop, you understand, one floating point operation. 1000 flop can be written as 1k flop, and 1 million flop can be understood as 1 M flop, and similar to this, it can continue up to 1 teraflop, 1 petaflop. Okay, so modern computer can do 100 G flops per second. Now coming back to this problem, that these two questions should be answered if you want to perform a vector search. Can my entire data fit into a RAM? Can I do this similarity? How fast can I do this similarity? So the point that I'm trying to make here is, if your use case is under maybe 100k or maybe even 500k, you don't need specialized structures, because nowadays when I come to vector search, when n is relatively large, the way they achieve that is by implementing some very advanced data structures and tree-based data structures to achieve this fast searching. So those might not be required for your use case if your number of documents are very less. Okay, so now once you answer these two questions, you have two different scenarios. Okay, vector search when n is relatively small, and when I talk about when I say n is relatively small, what I mean is from hundred of thousands to under a million. Okay, and then in comparison to that, we have vector search when n is relatively large. Now when n is relatively small, I don't think, although people might differ in my opinion, but you can just do exhaustive search as well, and no need for any specialized data structures. Okay, when vector search you need to do vector search over large number of billions of or millions of vectors, then you need to worry about some specialized data structures. That is what I wanted to cover in this section. Now we have next section for managed vector search solution, and I have categorized this into two parts. There are specialized companies which have devoted, which are basically doing this as a full-time thing. Okay, and then there are tools, there are managed vector search solutions which are basically, let me clear this search. Okay, then there are systems like GCP, for example, Azure. All these are part of much larger ecosystem of tools like Atlas, MongoDB, Postgres, Vector, and every cloud provider like AWS, GCP, Azure. And then there are specialized tools such as Quadrant, not tools I should say, but rather companies which are offering you these solutions, and Milvus. Okay, and also these individual companies might be solving this vector search solution in a different way. Some might be using maybe a tree-based structure, some graph-based structure to solve this vector search solution. But ultimately, all of them are doing some sort of dot product or maybe some other metrics, cosine similarity metric, and doing it over your collection of vectors. Okay, and then we have these solutions. Suppose you don't want to go for managed vector search solutions and you want to build your own. In that case, you can implement things from scratch. That would take some time, but there are libraries which can make your life easy. Libraries and techniques, I should say. First one is Facebook AI Similarity Search. Now, this is the game changer if you want to implement your own solution, because the way they have done is they have implemented a lot of data compression techniques like product quantization and things like that, which makes your life easy to load your vectors into RAM, or if that is not possible, to load them from disk. And then there is disk and an ANN system, which is, I guess, open sourced by Spotify, and that basically allow you to not do search on RAM but on SSD. So if you have SSD on your server, you can employ those to do vector search. And then there is this algorithm, graph-based algorithm to build your index. Now I'll talk about index in a moment. And then Quadrant is a much sophisticated, although Quadrant also has a managed solution if you want to go for that, but they have also open sourced their software so that you can run the software using maybe Docker container or download it and run it some other way, and then you can interface Quadrant with maybe Python API. Okay, so this is how you can do this. And finally, one last topic that I should be covering here is there is this thing called index creation. And what is index creation? So what you have is, you have a collection of vectors, and those vectors might be lying somewhere on your disk, right? So you want to take those vectors and you want to create some sort of you can say advanced data structure which allow you to basically query, or rather search from the vectors fast and efficient and in efficient manner. Okay, so this is a kind of a one-time process. So for example, if you have 1 million documents, you create this data structure once, unless your data gets updated. So if your data gets updated, you need to do this process once again, but it's not as frequent as querying. So there are two processes. Let me write that down again. Query. So query is something which, so this is, you can say, online process. Okay, when I say online process, and in web terminology, online process is something that is more frequent. Okay, frequent, it's very frequent. So you can have a web server or maybe web app where users can search these documents. Very less, maybe rare. Okay, once in a while, rare, once in a while. And this kind of process is also known as offline process. Okay, so this index creation, and when I talked about HNSW, this is an algorithm to build index only. Okay, and then there are techniques like product quantization, which helps you to compress vectors into some less precision format, which can then reduce your storage drastically. So for example, here we were storing our vector elements as float 32, and this you can basically take this from float 32 to maybe int 8. So there are different type of, you can say, quantization methods, like int 8 based quantization, and then float 16 quantization. So int 8 will basically take this and convert it into from 38 bits to 8 bit, and float 16 will just half it. It will convert it into 32 bits to 16 bit. And then there is a much more aggressive quantization, which is known as product quantization. And all these techniques are basically there to help you reduce the load of the vectors, so that you can efficiently and effectively load them into RAM to search. Okay, and it's all about the trade-off between accuracy and speed, because if you want to be really accurate, you don't want to do this quantization, but then you won't be able to serve your customers in a quick manner, right? So you need to be aware of these trade-offs. Okay, so I hope this small discussion was worth your time, but let me know if you want me to cover any of this topic in much more detail, or maybe the implementation part of it. Although I have several videos on my channel which covers some part of, so for example, I have discussed implementing and doing vector search on Quadrant in much detail in one of my videos. And what I wanted to do in this video was to just talk about this high level vector search problem, and talk about some of the underlying problem that people and organizations face. So thank you so much for watching this discussion, and if you think something can be improved, drop a comment and let me know if you want to see some of more stuff like this, or something else entirely different. I can cover that for you. Okay, thank you so much.